Alrighty, we are going to do a nice little Pirate Pete here. First thing I'm going to do is File New. I'm looking to create a 7 by 7 inch format. Let's just hit OK. And we will be pretty much right where I am at this point in time. Next, let's go File Place. You'll be able to find in your resources from Schoology a nice little picture of Pirate Pete. So let's just go with this one right here. I'm going to click Place. I'm going to be holding down Shift and the Alt button. Okay. For the most part, that looks good. Now, before I start to trace anything, or as we start to build it, I'm going to come over to my Layers tab. I'm going to go to the menu, and I'm going to look for Template. And what that's going to do is give it about a 50% transparency, and it's also going to lock that layer out. Next thing I'm going to do is create a new layer, and that's going to be my working layer. Okay, that's about it for right there. Things I do want to do, let's just kind of zero the fill out. I do want to have some sort of stroke. Let's just kind of do our normal type of brush at that point in time. We might do some custom brushes, but for the most part, I'm going to look to see if we can do a majority of this just using the shape tool and a little bit of the pen tool. So we are going to be bouncing back and forth between the black selection tool and then the direct selection tool. So we'll be bouncing back to modify a lot of these shapes. So let's just kind of start off with it. I am going to be doing a circle for the face. I'm just using my arrows. Let's go black. I'm just looking to line that up. So I'm just using my black arrow at this point in time. And I'm just looking for that bottom edge to just be as pretty close as possible. Okay, I'm going to bump up the stroke. That looks pretty good. Now we are going to be using quite a bit of this little scissor tool. I'm just going to come up here right above the ear. I'm going to go click, click, go back to my black arrow, and then I basically just break it down into little segments, and now I can just go delete. So I'm going to be doing that especially for like ears, the nose, where we can kind of have partial shapes. So this is kind of a nice little trick, especially if you guys are not fantastic at drawing, that you guys can always be using the shape tools, the direct selection tool A, to just kind of modify the shape, and then we can always come back and just kind of delete what we don't want. Okay, I'm going to go to the white tool, and I'm just going to pull that one down a tiny bit. Anytime you can make it where it doesn't look exactly like a circle, that's usually kind of a good little tidbit for you. Just so it doesn't look super cookie cutter. Okay? I'm going to go back to my scissor tool. I want a little bit of an overlap, so it's going to go right around here. And I'm just going to leave a little bit over here too. Click delete. This one might actually line up. We can always come back later and do the just the eraser tool. The eraser tool is quite handy as well. Okay, I'm just using the circle. I did not hold any shift. I did not do anything goofy with that. I'm just looking for this bottom arrow or the bottom edge of that ear. Okay, I'm going to go to the white selection tool, and I want to see if I can have this little handle kind of pop out a little more. Okay, I'm going to zoom in just so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, this one isn't perfect. I'm going to go back to my tool here. Delete, delete. Okay, I'm on my black arrow at that point in time. Okay, let's do the nose. We can always adjust these strokes, but for right now, we're just kind of getting kind of the basic shapes down. Move that over a bit. Looks pretty good, guys. Okay, go back to the Scissor tool, you're going to notice the scissor tool is C. So there's a faster way. I'm going to come right over here and go back to my black arrow. Now for this one, I want these edges to be a little bit more capped off. So I'm going to select it. I've got my black arrow selected. I'm going to come up to stroke, and I want to be selecting where it says round cap. And what that's going to do is give a little bit of a round edge to my stroke. So instead of having it really cut off like these guys are, it's going to round it off. So if I wanted these to be even rounded, I could do the same thing. And now these little caps are going to round off, round off. Okay, so it's just kind of a nice clean edge. So we'll do this especially for like this little guy right here. He's a little... Let's move on. I'm going to start to use the pen tool. I'm going to actually pull this guy out for a nice little tear off menu. And we're going to just use our pen tool. That's also the P. Now I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to come up and I'm going to click and drag until this line looks like it's pretty even. Okay, black arrow. I'm going to select it. I'm going to bump up the stroke a bit on that one. Okay, looks good. Let's do a little ear crease. Okay, go back to C, which is my scissor tool. Click, click, black selection tool. And I'm just going to delete. Okay, white arrow. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay. Okay, let's do a nice black eye patch here. We're just going to switch these two. Black selection tool first. Okay, come over to your white selection tool. I'm just going to pull this guy up. I want to kind of pull this guy up. Now if notice there's a little bit of an overlap kind of happening up here. No big deal. I'm going to go black. Let's come over, just click on your scissor. You're going to notice there's this nice little eraser tool. Now things that you shouldn't have is you should still have a nice black, or your eye patch should be selected. And it's only going to delete your eye patch. So just double check that it is in fact highlighted before you come in and start erasing. Now you don't want to see any little gaps. Okay, you just want to kind of cut out those areas. So we're going to still come back, same thing we can do over here. We have to expand a few things, but that's kind of a nice little tool where you can actually have things selected, come back with the eraser tool. And since these are all going to be black at some point anyway, really no big deal. So all these little overages that you might be seeing, that you might be yelling at me for, we can always come back and kind of just fix those up. Okay, let's do the ear. I'm going to click, drag. I'm going to hold down Alt. And I'm going to come back up. I just want a nice little back and forth. Okay, we're going to toggle those. Let's come back with the black selection tool. Black arrow. I'm just going to bump it up. I should get a nice little ear little shape. Okay, beautiful. Let's go back to the stroke. I want to round cap that little guy. Let's select our circle tool. I'm just looking for these little tiny little pieces at this point. Okay, that looks like it's fairly similar. I'm just selecting C. That is my scissor tool. Click, click. Right around that little top part of the edge. I'm going to go back to my black arrow. Select the bottom part of the circle and hit delete. That looks pretty good. Looks like it's already rounded cap. do something similar down here. Click on C. Click, click. Go back to my black arrow V. Hit delete. Okay, looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to start moving into some of the more challenging stuff here. I'm going to click. I'm clicking and holding Alt so I can get this little handle that's going to go back the opposite way. I'm going to point it in the direction I want. I come up to the top of this brow and I'm clicking and dragging down. Okay, holding down Alt. Around the curve, I'm clicking and pulling. Okay, come back down and I'm going to click and drag up. Okay, I'm going to switch those two. White arrow, let's see if we can modify anything here. I'm going to pull that one down here. I'm going to get this one a little bit more tapered. So if you're unfamiliar, you can always come back with the white tools. That white selection tool and the direct selection tool, which is literally the same thing. You can always modify. So if your pen tool went crazy on you, just relax. You can always come back. You can always fix stuff up. So it's very flexible and it's very forgiving that way. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to select my little tool here. Let's see if we can do it. Let's see if I can do it without. Nope, that's not what I want. Okay. We'll do that later. Okay, let's do the eyeball. Black circle. Nope. Black arrow. I'm just going to move that one in. We can just knock that stroke down just so we can see the edge. Okay. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's just do a nice little clean shape for now. Click, drag, hold. Click, click, drag, hold. I'm hitting Alt. And then I'm going to close that little shape off. So that'll be my white. Okay, let's get fancy. I got my black arrow. I'm going to select this shape. I'm just going to come over and just swap those two out. I don't want a fill on this one. Or take that back. I don't want a stroke. And I want that to be a white fill. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select them both. I've got black arrow, and I'm going to come over, and I want to look for my Pathfinder. If you don't have Pathfinder, it's under Window, and I'm going to minus the front. And now I've got a nice little eyeball shape. Okay, so again, I had them both selected. I'm just cutting out that initial white shape. They both did not have strokes, keep in mind. So I had a white fill for the highlight here, and I had a black fill for the highlight, or the pupil. And then I just came over and I said minus front in Pathfinder. If you do not have the Pathfinder open, it will be in your window, and you should be looking for Pathfinder. Okay, look pretty good. We can color that white at that point in time. Looks good. Edit, expand, object. I'm going to come over here and expand. Hit OK. Now we should have some fun with the eraser tool. So I'm just looking to delete this part of the eye so my eyebrow shows up so he looks nice and mean. Click off. Oh, that looks beautiful. Okay. Now keep in mind I can always come in with my white arrow. So if I'm noticing that I want some of this a little different, that's going to go crazy if I do that. I can always modify these shapes. Just going to kind of keep that in mind, especially if I'm looking at this little gap. I can always come in and modify things. No big deal. Okay, looking like something. Let's move on to the mustache. I'm gonna come over. Let's do two different sides of the mustache, and we'll just delete them. I'm gonna click over here. I'm gonna click and drag. I'm pointing in the direction I want to go. There's a little bend here, so I want to make sure I get that in. I'm just gonna pull up. I'm gonna come down. I'm clicking and dragging. I'm holding Alt, and I'm gonna be able to pull this little handle back towards the other way. That's how I'm gonna get a nice little point. Let's just see if I can get one and done. Nope, probably should have done another one. Let's go here. Point up. Okay. So now I can come back. I've got my white arrow selected. And I can always come in and modify these shapes. This is a real subtle frown right here. So I do want to kind of modify this little curve, because that's how it gets a little mean pirate sneer. Okay, beautiful. Okay, before you guys lynch me, let's see if we can, just want to see if that's nice and smooth. Looks good. I have it selected. Notice it's red. Come back over with my eraser tool. I'm just looking to get rid of that. So I'm just coming back in. As long as it is overlapping with that nose, I should have a nice, smooth, clean edge for that nose. I've got a nice little sneer. Keep in mind, I can always come back with my white arrow. I can modify that shape. So let's do the next one. Okay, P for pen tool. I'm going to come in, click and drag. I'm going to come right here where it bends. I'm going to click and drag. I'm pointing in the direction that I want it to go. I'm going to come down towards the tip. Click and drag. Good. I'm going to hold down Alt. I'm going to swing it back around. Keep in mind my mouse is still selected. I'm pointing in the direction I want. Come right here, right before the bend. I'm going to come right over here. Click and drag. Hold down Alt. Swing it back around. Just finish that one off. Okay. That one looked pretty good. I'm using my white arrow. I just selected that anchor point, and I can just drop that anchor point. And what I'm looking for is this little frown. I want this to be pretty dead on down here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Shift E is your eraser tool, or just click on your eraser. And again, I'm just looking to have a nice, smooth edge that I've already created with my nose. Go back to the black. Okay, looks pretty good, guys. Okay, let's start moving on. I would do this at this point. Let's go File, Save. Okay, let's go through the hat and the hair. I'm just going to go backwards so you can see how I built it. Now I have 3 circles, one for each of the little peaks, and then I modified with the direct selection tool as well as the selection tool, just kind of modified to more of a bean shape, if you will. And then I came through with the pen tool, did the hair, and then do notice that even on the curvature of the hat as well as on the hair there, that I did kind of go into the brim just so it'll all fill in black. So I selected them all, I held down Shift with the black arrow, and then I just united them with the Pathfinder. So at this point, I'm going to go through with the minus pen tool, and I'm subtracting the amount of points. So even if you use the brush tool to come through and do some of the points, you want to get rid of them, and you want to have most of your curvature just with your handles. So you're going to go through and be deleting most of those extras or any type of little bump that you're going to see from your tools or as you're creating, and you just want to get rid of those so it's a really, really nice smooth line. Keep in mind you can always come back with the white arrow and or the direct selection tool and modify those handles and those points. So those anchor points, you can move those so they actually fit quite nicely. So we've already united them. It's one big giant shape, and it looks pretty good. So we can move on to the next step. For the most part, everything is pretty well drawn. The only last little thing we have to do is our earrings, and we'll just do those quick. I'm just going to do a circle. I'm going to come and adjust it so it has a fairly thick stroke to it, just so it'll fit. Now we can modify a lot of this later. I'm just going to speed through the earrings, but for the most part, that'll work out quite nicely for you guys. We'll do the same exact process that we just did with our scissor tool. So once I have it kind of going through the middle there, I will use my scissor, go up to the top where it's the eraser and or C, and you should be able to kind of clip the top part of the ear there. Okay, scissor tool. Delete, delete. Go back to the black arrow. Just select V. Get very good with your shortcuts, by the way. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm looking to copy that over, so I'm just holding down my Alt. Notice that I have my black arrow key still selected. Just kind of adjust that. I'm going to rotate this one a little bit more. Okay, click on A, go back to your direct selection tool. And I'm just modifying those handles so they're not exactly perfect. So there's a little bit of a bulge kind of happening at the bottom of the earrings, and that's what I'm adjusting at this point in time. If you like the look of just the circle, that's fine. If I was going to get really picky, I would adjust the point. Right now it's kind of a big fat aspect going into the ear. Just for the sake of argument, I am not going to bother with that. And then we can start to move on to the next steps here. Okay, next little step we have is our skull. Now you guys can just use the skull that we used or modify it. So if you just want to copy and paste that over, you would be able to do the skull that we've already done in class. But this one will be pretty simple, and I'm going to do it mostly with our spheres again, but we're going to just modify it a tiny bit. So I've got a sphere. I'm going to come back and kind of do more cheekbones on this one. So I'm going to do a big, long, skinny one, and that's just going to go all the way across, and that's going to be for our cheekbones. I'm just going to drag that one over. I think it's easier just to kind of do one big shape. Now you could do rounded rectangles for the teeth. I'm going to come back and do it a little differently later with the pen tool, but rounded, okay, go back up to the top, go to warp, bulge, everything should be zeroed out. We're just going to do the vertical. Drag that over so we're getting a nice little teardrop shape. Looks good. I'm going to go to expand. So that was object expand. Hold down your option so you get another one. I'm just going to rotate it a little bit just so it touches up at the top. I am going to rotate this more and possibly scale it more to fit the size of the face. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, we just basically have a nice little upside down shape for like a heart. I'm holding down shift, doing both of them, go back to Pathfinder, unite, so that becomes one nice shape. I'm going to draw a circle for the eye. And for this one, I'm just going to do the direct selection tool, white arrow. I'm going to get a nice little upset, angry. So with that, you just want the kind of the inner part of the eyebrow to be facing down. So you're going to kind of see that most of those direct, or those anchor points, as well as those handles, are just making sure that that goes straight down. And you get kind of a angry looking eye. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to say black arrow, hit Alt, hit your option, drag it over. You're going to go to transform, reflect. We want that on the vertical axis. And I'm just going to rotate this down a bit. And I don't want these to be exact, so I might just use direct selection tool and kind of modify them a little bit. Okay, This is where I don't like these circles, so I'm going to come back with the pen tool and just do 3 little, more kind of rough squares for the teeth, just to make them look a little tougher. Okay, so there's a little trick here. We did go over this in class, but I do want to kind of show you that we can come through and modify some things. So a few things that I would want you to do is we have gone through, everything's pretty much either a shape and or a stroke. Most of our lines at this point are still strokes. So if I have, let's say if I'm just looking at this headband, I can use the eraser tool once I've expanded. So just go onto the black selection. You are going to click it, go up to Object, Expand, and then you would be able to use the eraser tool. So any of that overlapping that we have, so by the ears especially, you can just come in, select the tool, click on Expand. Just double check before you expand that everything is good. So if you need to adjust the stroke or the weight or anything like that, just double check it. So I've expanded it. Now I'm going to come back with my eraser tool. That's Shift E, or you can just click on the little eraser button. We have used the scissor tool quite a bit, so just double check that it's not hiding behind your scissors. Now if there's any overlapping with like black on black and it's just kind of hanging out there, you really wouldn't have to come through and modify that. But as we're erasing, you're going to notice that it does not erase any of the extra stuff that's kind of behind it. So it's only going to be deleting the shape that you have selected, which is nice. Okay, let's do the little red ribbon. I'm on the layer that I want. Click drag. I'm clicking and dragging. Keep in mind that second handle should point in the direction that you want. Click and drag. I am not holding down the Option key, by the way. And then I'm going to click and drag. Always remember that we can always modify this later. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to switch it to red. And then I do not want a stroke on that. And then we're just going to, or not a fill. Then we're just going to adjust the stroke weight. And then we're going to come back with our direct selection tool and just modify any of the curvatures. So things that we can always do, we can always modify it. I'm looking at the top one. I think it's got a little bit of a bend. But for right now, I'm not going to be too picky. So a few things that we can do, and this is what we're going to be moving on to. There is a nice, wonderful thing that's called Live Paint in the Live Paint bucket. And in order to use it, we have to have really confined spaces, and everything has to be a shape. So we are going to come through, and we are going to be expanding all of our strokes. Keep in mind the really easy way of doing it is just clicking and dragging over the entire thing, and then just expand it. And you might have to do it once or twice, but instead of doing each individual one like I'm being a knucklehead doing right now, just click over the whole thing. There we go. Select everything, and then Object, Expand, and then hit OK. And then everything will pretty much do it. Sometimes it's a little finicky on what it grabs and what it doesn't grab, so just kind of be aware that sometimes it does not expand everything while doing that process. Okay, so what I'm doing at this point is I'm holding Shift, I've got my black arrow selected, and I'm going through and clicking on any of the black that is connected. So my hats, my eyebrows, so the only thing that's really not going to be connected is that eye. And I'm going to come over to Pathfinder, and I'm just going to unite those. So all of my blacks are going to be a nice, wonderful shape. So the only thing that I missed at that point is going to be that little, I missed an earring, but it's not going to be that big of a deal for the demonstration. Okay, unite that, send it to back. Okay, so I'm going to go in and select everything, come up to the top. I'm going to just expand, just double check that everything is expanded. I'm going to come down to Live Paint. I'm going to say Make, and then I'm going to be able to use the paint bucket. So let's just go through the skin color. I'm just going to use the basic one, but you're going to notice that it turns red. So anything that is a shape, it's kind of a confined space, so that's why we were using the Pathfinder and uniting all of our black. We would be able to modify and just fill in very, very quickly. So that'll make it a little bit easier so you don't have to be filling during that whole process. So I'm just going to come back in, lighten things back up. Don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to save for web and devices. That's where you'll get your nice, wonderful little ping. And then you can save Pirate Paint. Done and done.